Issue 6. We started out with Sonic and Tails in the underground lab of Eggman when he was known as Dr. Kintobor, which is now the secret headquarters of Sonic. That's fascinating, but I can't help but wonder why, when Kintobor went evil, he didn't keep this lab for himself, unless he got ousted and found a different base afterwards. Tails asks how come if Kintobor was changed into Robotnik, that's his face above the computer monitor that looks so thick it's dating the comic. Sonic reminds him that this is Kintobor's computer and the face is just a hologram to make the thing easier to use, showing annoyance having to constantly remind him of this apparently, when they've been friends for years and been with Kintobor for years. Man, Tails really is an idiot in this comic. What, did he get a bunch of concussions? Why would Tails need reminding of this at all? What a pointless panel. Sonic tells Tails button it because there's something going on there, and he tells the computer to put it on screen, and it does so, recognizing his words. What's on screen is Robotnik's Death Egg space satellite, and Tails says that he thought it was destroyed. Sonic says it's heading for a crash landing in the middle of Emerald Hill Zone, rather than Angel Island, so at least that's original. Tails asks what they can do, and Sonic spin dashes over to the tornado plane, saying, "Move it, kid! This is no picnic we're going on." And Tails stutters, "Sorry, Sonic." Sonic gets on the wing of the plane, which is tilted as it's flying in the air, so I guess his shoes are magnetically attached to it so he won't just slide off. He says that they're going to Wing Fortress, even though we were just told that the Death Egg was in Emerald Hill Zone. Good, Tails is just as confused as I am, but unfortunately he doesn't bother asking why Sonic's making this decision, being too meek to question him. Well, Sonic's barely tolerating him as it is, so he's probably meek to preserve the friendship. Tails says at Wing Fortress, because suddenly they are going there, that he'll stick around in the plane if Sonic needs help later, and Sonic dismisses that he never needs help out of arrogance.
Oh yeah, sure, Sonic could just fly up there, you know, with his arms. He doesn't need Tails to pilot the plane.
Sonic dodges an attack from a Clucker Badnik and fights the Wing Fortress boss without Eggman there, reasoning that the defenses must be on automatic. He's thankful that Tails didn't witness him walk into a trap like that. Then Tails calls out, with Sonic hearing him somehow from off screen, and says that he found somewhere to land the plane and asks him if he's alright in there. Sonic says happily that he's fine and orders him to get back in the plane because he's assuming he left it for some reason. Then Sonic says the laser cannon is getting ready to do its thing, and Tails asks him if he's sure everything's okay, probably because he can hear him since Tails can hear him. It doesn't look like Sonic's wearing a Bluetooth. Sonic says, "Now beat it!" And Tails fortunately doesn't hear that harsh remark. Sonic spin dashes, damaging something on the ceiling, and Tails appears out of nowhere and apologizes to Sonic for not having faith in him. Sonic says that he might as well come along, but if he can't keep up, all bets are off. So he'd ditch him and risk of getting kidnapped again? They find a spaceship as Sonic says that this is why they had to come to Wing Fortress. How did he know there was one here? Also, he calls Tails little buddy, which is very sweet considering he's normally such a jerk to him. Well, he does call him buddy a lot. We'll see that he even calls a random civilian buddy. So, Sonic lampshades that of course they couldn't fly into space in a biplane, emphasizing how this is better and more logical than how Sonic 2 handled it. The spaceship flies in the air, with Tails saying that he feels sick for some reason. And when Tails points out the Death Egg in amazement, Sonic snarks, "Tails, what is it with you?" and stating the blatantly obvious. This is pretty satisfying considering how often Captain Obvious dialogue happens in the early Sonic comics and Sonic games. They go into the Death Egg as I'm starved for originality, since this is literally just a plot of Sonic 2. They skipped every single level and just cut straight to Wing Fortress Zone. How half-assed and rushed is that? They get stopped by Silver Sonic, who Sonic responds to with, "That's supposed to be me." Sad, isn't it? I like his snarky dialogue, it's pretty entertaining. But of course, he's still jerked the way he talks to people, so while he's not really a likable person, he is a fun character. Sonic makes a reference to him beating Silver Sonic before, and a text blurb reveals that there was a Sonic 2 adaptation for real that happened off screen, and we'll never get to see it. Sonic says that this time he'll do a better job, defeating it effortlessly because it's so fast. For some reason, Tails says that he thinks time's running out, and Sonic says he'll have to steer the Death Egg away from Emerald Hill Zone immediately. I guess he wants to do this to prevent it from crashing onto any native wildlife and people. He tells Tails to use the escape pod even though there's only one, because even a jerk like him is self-sacrificial like that. Huh? I find that hard to believe. Through the power of bullshit, Sonic is standing on top of the escape pod all of a sudden while Tails is thinking he died, and he doesn't explain how he survived. He was the one who steered the Death Egg into the ocean, and it crashes into it while Tails is in the escape pod with a parachute over the ocean, with a view clearly showing that Sonic wasn't on the escape pod. The only explanation I can think of is that Sonic was fast enough to put it on that path towards the ocean by steering it, and then run to share the escape pod with Tails, but you'd think Tails would have noticed him inside it. And he wasn't inside it, so he just jumped onto the top of it or hid himself in his parachute. I guess he didn't explain that plan of his to survive to Tails beforehand because it would have taken up too much time. But he has super speed, it shouldn't have taken up too much time, I guess. This issue is by Nigel Kitchen. It seems every early issue I've read has a huge problem with it in the logic department, and I know the first few issues of Archie Sonic weren't like this. Especially because they're more creative, but this story was nothing but Sonic and Tails going to a Sonic 2 level, fighting a Sonic 2 boss, getting a spaceship, so that's one original concept, except Tails is surprised that he did this, when apparently Sonic already lived through Sonic 2 before this and he didn't use a spaceship in that game. Well, he did get to Death Egg in it but he went to it from the biplane in the game. All that happens is that Sonic goes to a Sonic 2 level and fights Silver Sonic again. The only originality is that it's revealed Sonic's base is Kintobor's old lab, which I guess he was ousted from, and the Death Egg is on a collision course with Emerald Hill and Sonic steers it into the ocean. But here's where the big problem comes in. I guess I could forgive the bland lack of originality, but it's not explained how Sonic got to the escape pod when it was assumed he had to stay in the Death Egg to steer it. He probably needed only a few seconds to change its steering path, but he could have at least tried to tell Tails he'd be fast enough to do that and then getting to the escape pod with them. He could have said, "I'll be okay," in like 3 words, and he wasn't in it, he was on top of the escape pod. So, huh? That was just insulting. Again. This issue's okay.